Guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all well. And today we are back in North London in Highgate, and we're here to have a look at the final resting place of, I think, one of the greatest singer-songwriters, vocalists to ever come out of the UK, Mr. George Michael. And George was born in June 1963 and grew up in the Bushey area over Watford Way. And it was at secondary school that he met Andrew Ridgeley and Shirley Holliman, and together they formed Wham. So people think of Wham as Andrew Ridgeley and George Michael, but it was actually, there were sort of four of them. It was Andrew and George mainly, but also Shirley and DC Lee as their backup dancers and singers. And then I think DC Lee left, she married Paul Weller, and Pepsi came in. And for those of you guys old enough, you might remember Pepsi and Shirley. I think they released a couple of singles in the mid-80s. But Wham released their first single in 1983, and they spent the next couple of years just doing battle every week with all the other 80s mega groups: Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran, Culture Club, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and just taking it in turns being number one really. And then Wham split in 1986, and they held a huge one-off farewell concert, Wham the Final, at the old Wembley Stadium. And George released his follow-up album, or his debut solo album rather, in 1987, Faith, and that was just huge. It was massive in the States, in the UK, just globally. And after that he released several other albums: Older, Listen Without Prejudice, 25 Live, Ladies and Gentlemen. He also released a couple of cover albums as well, and I think partly because he loved that style of music that he covered, but partly because it had a bit to do with his legal challenges against Sony. So he took Sony to court and he wanted to get released from his contract, and ultimately he lost. And it was one of the Sony executives, I think at the time, they turned around and said, great, we won the court case, but effectively we've won the battle but lost the war. So because of him losing, we haven't had any music from one of the greatest artists for a good 6-7 years. So yeah. And George also had a few other legal troubles and brushes with the press. He hated all the intrusion and all the other bits and pieces that sort of came along with it, but he also did amazing things for charity. He gave huge amounts of money to charities, organisations, individuals, but he kept a lot of that quiet. He wanted it kept quiet. He didn't want it coming out in the press. He didn't want to be thanked or recognised for it. And George tragically passed away December 25th, Christmas Day 2016. And he should be just round the corner. He is buried on a family plot with his mum and his sister. Georgios Kiriako Panayotou, 25th of June 1963, 25th of December 2016. Beloved son, brother and friend. And then next to him, we've got his mum, Leslie, 24th of December 1938, 26th of February 1997. Beloved wife, mother, sister and friend. And then we've got his sister Melanie, 22nd of October 1960, 25th of December 2019. She died exactly 3 years after On the day, beloved daughter, sister and friend. Hey everyone, we have just popped over to Hampstead. Now George had a couple of houses, obviously someone in his position. He had the house in Highgate, which became a shrine after he sadly passed away, and then obviously the house in Goring, which is the place he tragically passed away at. And there's also the place, I think he had a place in Regent's Park, which is set behind some pretty big gates, so it's obviously very private. But in the early 90s and mid 90s, he actually lived here in Hampstead, and it's like a bungalow that sits on stilts. And for those of you that may remember, at some point during that time there was like a super fan stalker, either or, and she actually lived under the house for a couple of days. She was obsessed with George, and he eventually realised what was going on, and he phoned the police and she got arrested. So it's actually changed over the years. So years ago you used to be able to drive pretty much right up to the house, but now there's some gates there and you can't get near it, but we'll see if we can get at least a shot of it and yeah, see what it looks like. So let me know if you're aware of this place, let me know what you think. Hey guys, so we're in Bushey at Bushey Meads School, which is in Watford, and we're having a look at the Blue Heritage Plaque for George Michael, who attended here as a sixth former. So let's see if we can get into the school quickly, have a look at the blue plaque, and hopefully not create too many problems. So this is the music block, and appropriately we've got George Michael's heritage plaque. George Kyriakos Panayotou, professionally known as George Michael, singer-songwriter and philanthropist, attended sixth form here at Bushey Meads School. You have been loved.